Yay. So Beth, are you ready? So Beth Roach was one of the incredible participants of last year's Sierra Club and Women's Earth Alliance Accelerator for Grassroots Women Environmental Leaders, which, just a little plug, we are March 4th launching the 2020 application and nomination process. So if anyone knows other people that might weave into this network, May 4th, sorry, thank you very much. Without further ado, Beth, you can share your screen, and the flow of this call will just be Beth has a presentation, and we thought there would be some time for question and answers, and we'll try to end, somewhere near 5 if possible, or an hour after we started, wherever you are in the world. And if you feel like you don't want to hold a question for a long time, I can manage the chat. So if you have the capacity to type into the chat, we'll just make sure that all happens. And that gets all the questions. Okay.
Wow, y'all. My heart is so full. So Yahweh, Beth Roach. So I'm so grateful for all y'all to be here on the call. Like, I'm just having one of those moments where I'm just thinking, let it soak in. I'm asking us all, are we at peace? And that's a real loaded question right now, right? I'm at peace to be here with you all, but this is a real interesting time that we're in. So I'm deeply grateful for you all to be here with us tonight. And my name is Beth Roach. I'm a member of the Nottoway Tribe of Virginia and on the tribal council. And I've been telling this story for a long time, and it's something that is like all of our iterations are always growing and evolving, and my understanding of it gets deeper all the time. So before we get into the meat of the program, I'd like to just start this properly in a way that most Haudenosaunee folks do, and it's our Thanksgiving address. So I'm giving you some lines in Nottoway. We are reconstructing our language, like so many other folks out there, really working on revitalizing our culture and doing that in our agriculture and our language and being with each other and dance and ceremony and just really reviving that any kind of way we can. And so, I'd like to also let you know that I'm in Richmond, Virginia. And so I'm very close to the fall line of this river that was named the James River after they learned that it was named after Powhatan, which was the predominant Algonquian group on the East Coast where the European colonizers came initially. And so where I am, it's really nestled in between, we've got Algonquian nations to the east, we've got Siouan speaking folks to the west, down south where I'm from, it's your Iroquois speakers are Haudenosaunee, so Nottoway, Meherrin, Tuscarora. And yeah, so let's get started with Thanksgiving address. And so it's 3 different lines. And I first just ask that we all, come together with one mind to be grateful for pretty much everything in life. But we're gonna highlight the top 3. So so I'm so grateful for all y'all to be here, and we first acknowledge the people that are here with us, and so this is the community we have in this moment, and so I'm really grateful for all y'all. And with that, we come together with one mind. So and so now we're turning our attention to the land that we're on, and the Mother Earth and all that she cradles us in, and we pay our respect and gratitude for that, and then come to one mind. And and so now you're calling our attention to the water. Of course, we know that water provides us with all of our life, and the Thanksgiving address goes on and on and on. It's taken like up to a week sometimes to recite, but let's all, if we could just like pause for a second. You all named so many beautiful people where you are, and so I'd like to presence all the ancestors that you have in your family lines, and all of the ancestors that are supporting you and where you are right now. Just take a deep breath. That is beautiful. I think Emily, you got some birds in the background. All right, y'all. So we're going to get to a lot about the Alliance of Native Seedkeepers, but you know, for us, it's all about our story of creation, original instructions that we were given by our Creator. And I have some artwork to share with all of us. But you know, I'd like for you, if you would like to take this first moment with me and just picture yourselves like up in Sky World. That's where we all began in our story of creation. So if you'd like to close your eyes, you can just imagine that before there's the civilization that we live in now on this earth, that we were all up in the sky world. So we're all living up in the stars. Yeah. We had all of our food, and we had all of our medicine, and we had all of our community there, everything we needed. And in the middle of the sky world is this beautiful celestial tree, this tree that gave us all of our medicine and our foods. So in this world, we had leaders, and one of them, his wife, he who holds the sky, his wife, Sky Woman, had a dream one night. And in this dream, she dreamt that this tree of life, had been uprooted. So she wakes up, you can flutter your eyes open if you like, and she shares this dream because we believe it's really important to share dreams and looking to our community for wisdom. So she shares this dream with her community, and they realize that this is a very important message, and so they have to like carry it out. So I tell this a lot with kids, and I think that, you know, we're all like maybe in a space where we can move around. So I've never done this virtually where we do this part, but I invite you to help with the story with me. And so the first thing they do is they try to, you know, uproot this tree. And so if you can imagine just wrapping your arms around this tree, you can see your hands. And on 3, we're all gonna try. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3. Okay, good try. So let's do it one more time. Let's get all our hands around the tree, all of us. 1, 2. Okay, good try. So finally, and there's versions of the story, but and this one that he holds the sky says, all right, I'm gonna do it. So he puts his arms around it. One last try, everybody, all the hands around the tree. Let's go 1, 2. Good job, y'all. We did it. We really loosened it up for him. We all know that. But so now we have this hole like where the tree was. And Sky Woman, it was her dream. So, you know, she had to go investigate it. Sky Woman goes, let's just pause and then look. I don't know where your face boxes are, but if you can look in the quadrant where the stars are, that's really where our sky world is. This is Pleiades, her 7 sisters. Lots more about her, and there's a lot of really amazing parallels in Pleiades and 7 sisters. A lot of our creation stories. So here we are. We have Sky Woman. We have this hole. And so she's looking over, and down below she sees something she's never seen before. And it's all this beautiful blue glittering light. And before we were here, there was just nothing but water. There were some critters. There are some critters that could live in the water, and there's other parts of the story to that. But you know, when she's looking down, she's just seeing this beautiful water. So there's, again, different versions. Some say that she leaned a little too close, a little too close, a little too close. What do we think might have happened? Some say that she chose to go through this hole. You know, personally, in my life, I feel like sometimes I fall and sometimes I purposely jump. And so I feel like both sides of the story work for me. But regardless, she starts to fall through this hole. And down below, the critters are looking up and they're like, oh no, like they know something's wrong. They don't really quite know what's happening, but they know that they have to help her out. So first, you see these beautiful geese. They fly up. And if you'd like to fly up with me, you can fly up. You can catch her, just as you see down here. So we have one part of the story. She's safe, but we still need a place for her to land. So then you have conversations going on with the critters down below. First you have Beaver, who like lives in the water all the time, and Beaver says, I know, I'm gonna go find Earth. I heard that there's something down below all the water. So Beaver first goes. Swim, swim, swims, doesn't make it. Next, Loon is like, I can fly and I can swim. So she flies up. If you want to dive in, she dives in, she swims, she goes farther than the beavers, she gets tired, she comes back up. Our geese are struggling now. They're getting a little tired. People are beginning to worry, or the critters are beginning to worry, rather. And then they hear this teeny tiny little voice. And the voice says, I'll do it or I'll die trying. They all look around and like, well, who said that? And when they realize it, y'all, it's Muskrat. It's the tiny little Muskrat. So they're all like, okay, Muskrat, give it a try. So Muskrat goes down to the water, goes past where the beaver went, keeps swimming, goes past where the loon went, and keeps swimming, swimming, swimming. And she's about to pass out. She's about to give up, but her paw hits the bottom. She grabs the earth and she swims back up. So we still have Sky Woman in the air. The geese are getting tired still. And we don't have a place to put her yet. The turtle says, I know, you can put the mud on my back. So Muskrat takes his paw and puts the mud on the back. The geese are able to let Sky Woman down on the turtle shell. And with that, she's so excited. She starts to do a skanye, this dance that we have. She starts to spread the earth out. She's got seeds with her. And she's also got something else with her. Does anybody know? Kahea knows.
A baby.
Sky Woman's got a baby with her. So our story continues. There's different versions of how she gets, of who this next chapter is about, but there's common themes of there's twins that she has. She has a daughter. The daughter has twins, good mind and bad mind. There's some, it's not the best translation between like good and bad. Like, you know, there's a way that we like to describe it is that good mind is like the raspberry, but like bad mind's like the thorn. You know, like not everything is going to be super sweet, right? Like we're going to have to work through it. And then during her birth, good mind comes out the natural way, and bad mind comes out with, he's got stone on his head, comes out in a different way. So the sad part of the story, of course, is that Sky Woman's daughter doesn't survive childbirth. But from her grave here, we have all these seeds, and we have seeds that Sky Woman brings down with her from the celestial tree. And even the question of how she got the seeds, some say that a comet, a panther comes by and hooks her up with them. Some say, you know, that she's trying to grab onto the tree roots and the branches, and she brings them down that way. But regardless of how you interpret the story of What of Our Nations, we've got, you know, Nottoway, Tuscarora, Meherrin down here, and then of course up north you have Oneida, Onondaga, Seneca, Cayuga, Mohawk, and you know, we've all got like our different variations of it. But essentially, it's that we are given these seeds to share. We're not supposed to waste them. And that's really, you know, the beginnings of who we are. Also, you know, we emerge from this amazing teamwork effort of these critters who had no idea who was coming or what to do, but they worked together. And I think pretty much everybody on this call has probably felt like Muskrat once in their life. Like, you know, like I'm willing to do this. Like I'm going to try, and I'm not going to give up. And a lot of times, you know, that's really the energy that pushes us forward. So there's many different parts of the story. I encourage y'all to continue to look up the story of Sky Woman. You're gonna find a lot of beautiful artwork and things. But that's really the root of who we are. And so, you know, we talk a lot about maintaining balance, and that's really that beginning Thanksgiving address. I mean, it truly goes on to incorporate like all of our medicine plants and trees for oxygen and shelter, and our birds for teaching us how to sing and to remind us to be happy, you know, our moons and our wind, our sun, and our medicine, the people that remember how to keep the medicine. And really that's, you know, that's what we're supposed to do. So let's fast forward to present. So I'm so grateful for so many of y'all to be on here. You're here because, you know, you've got connections to Haudenosaunee culture, and you're here because you know me and you love me. You're here because you're just finding out about Women's Earth Alliance, which is a phenomenal program. You're here because of seed saving. And, you know, my background is that I'm a historian, and, you know, this work that we're doing is so much about, it's restorative in the seeds, but it's also restorative justice, and it's restorative culture, and it's restorative history. And, you know, until you really start to like deep dive down into why we sometimes don't have our seeds, then it's, you know, I think sometimes easy to miss how radical it really is to save seeds.
This is woman with seeds. A woman with seeds. It's like a whole Zoom thing. They're talking about seeds.
Yeah. So I mentioned Tuscarora, and, you know, I've spent some time getting to know the women out west, and I learned a little bit about more about the
Earth Alliance is inviting to schedule a Zoom meeting about sharing seeds.
She's gonna, yeah. I learned a lot about the occupation of Alcatraz and the American Indian movement out there, and I'm sure a lot of y'all on the West Coast have learned a lot about that. And something that happened on the East Coast is that there was a takeover of the Bureau of Indian Affairs here in Washington, D.C. And so some of the pictures you see here, there are of the, you know, offices that after the occupation. And if you can see Tuscarora written on the wall, one of the corns that they got was the Tuscarora red corn that there was a whole other story about, that said that this corn was given to the Tuscarora people from Creator, and the Creator basically said, this is yours to nourish you, and this is yours to have in community, but if you ever start to, you know, to lose that community, then you're going to lose your corn. And it was not until you come back together, then do you, like, will you have peace again? So a lot of the stuff that happened in history, you know, it's like, you know about broken treaties, y'all know about our language being, you know, like a lot of places, like we have to rebuild it or it's gone, or, you know, a lot about our loss of land and rights and things. But, you know, another way to call on, or, you know, to oppress somebody is to take away their seeds. And so they reclaimed these seeds and they brought them back down to North Carolina, and that's where my partner Vix Kane's from. And there are some really amazing seed keepers that started to keep this seed. And, you know, really it's our belief, you know, we're not unlike anybody else, any other groups of people. We don't always get along, but, you know, it's our belief that, like, if we start to unearth these stories and start to work together on preserving our stories and our seeds, then, you know, we can help it to rebuild that community. So the beginnings of this project really were with the American Indian movement. And then this is another site in North Carolina where, yeah, this is getting kind of deep into the history, but it shows where the community resilience really comes from. And that one of the last major battles, and this is, it's cutting off my screen, I hope it's not on yours, but it's that almost 900 Native people were killed in this northeastern North Carolina. Really, it was a massacre, but none of these things are in history books, but it was really the end of the, you know, the stronghold that we had before, like, all of our Southeast nations started to get really locked into our reservations, and then the reservations started to get dismantled in various ways. So, you know, this project starts with, like, the red corn coming to North Carolina, and then these members of Skorori Gatanawaga Seed Bank deciding that they're gonna plant on Neoroga. They're gonna bring this red corn back to this site, and they're gonna honor the ancestors in a way of showing just that we're regenerating, you know, our agriculture, but we're also telling your stories. And so a lot of y'all know that this project is evolved into the Alliance of Native Seedkeepers, and a lot of it was because of this first date here. So if you look at these two folks standing in front of the Capitol, that's Vix and I during a Standing Rock rally. where the Coalition of Woodland Nations, that's another topic, really started to look at what was happening out in Standing Rock and realizing that East Coast natives needed to talk to each other. Like, we needed to start to figure out, like, you know, what's going to happen. So that's how we met. And throughout time, we, you know, when our relationship developed and he came up to Virginia, he started working with other nations. And so, like, I'm Nottoway, he's Tuscarora, and then we have 2 other folks that are Monacan. And from there, we were like, oh, wow, we're intertribal now, right? Like, now we've got these different groups. And so, you know, this has started to really grow and grow and grow, where it's like, okay, we really want the people of whose ancestors developed these seeds, we want to return these seeds to them. We want them to protect the seeds, keep the stories with them, connect back to them, to the migration patterns, to the ceremonies that are a part of every single one of us. And so, you know, the vision of the Alliance is just that. It's just that we want our people to have this culture, this vibrant, you know, living system that we had so long before colonization. And so here we are, the Alliance of Native Seedkeepers. Logo's cut off a little bit, sorry about that. So, you know, we were like, okay, well, we're gonna start this business and we're gonna do it as a benefit corporation so that we can have a little more flexibility, but still do good. We wanna work directly with tribal communities, and we want, you know, to provide a way for people to support this work. And the, you know, the real vision is like working directly in gardens, reestablishing our traditional agricultural methods, really diving deeply into, you know, if you're Haudenosaunee or ceremonial calendar, everybody has a different kind of take, but, and for us, and I suspect this is true for most of us, it's our agricultural calendar and our ceremonial calendar are really layered on top. They're one and the same. I'm gonna pause. Let me just go on for a little bit more, and because this project is ever evolving. So I know most of y'all know what you're seeing, this little green sprout. That's a little corn baby. And I gotta say, for the longest time, Fix has been saving seeds for almost a decade. And we get these notes in the mail with some of these samples that are like, this is the last known that we have. And that's terrifying, right? Because I think you all know the threat of monoculture and GMO, you know all that. So, you know, our idea with connecting people with these seeds is, just, you know, that's their ancestors. And so, like, you know, you don't want to keep your ancestors, your family alive. To this corn picture that we have, it's Seneca Pink Lady corn. It's one of the most beautiful corn that I've ever seen. We've just only found one other source, and we had a catastrophic garden experience last year because we had 2 early heat snaps, climate crisis related, that we weren't used to. And so we're very particular about, you know, who we share, you know, we're learning that you really have to be very careful with all of these things because, you know, our climate is changing and it's pretty scary. So these are our Monacan friends. And you know, these slides, it's funny, I was telling Sarita, you know, like I made this particular presentation just the week of February, the first week of February. And, you know, I'll get to like how some of our stuff has shifted, but, and this is all still very relevant and true, but it's, a lot of what this work is, it's similar to Niaroga, where they're planting their red corn on the Niaroga site. And so this is the Monacan Nation up to the west of me. And they are planting this Tutelo Suvan corn, which has been a really amazing cultural revitalization effort. And that's a very good success story of corn that has been brought back to, it's not like ready, you can't buy it from our store yet, but we're getting it to really stable numbers, which, you know, there's a whole metric system, or, you know, a whole volume associated with that, but that's doing really well. If you have been to Virginia, you might recognize this or being around, but this is called Natural Bridge. And this is one of their sacred cultural sites. It's now a state park. And you can see where our mouse is, like those are people down there. Like it's so big. So one of the sites that we have growing is at this site, and it's a way to show this is a natural cultural resource. And you can learn from Vicki. She does a beautiful living history site there. This is one of her t-shirts. And this is a picture of Vicki with our governor, Governor Northam. We use the Alliance as a way to also be a platform for our advocacy concerns. And so they are standing near a place called Rossawick, which is their capital, their historic capital grounds, where there is a proposed water treatment plant being pushed down the permit line. And so in this picture, she's telling the governor, if that was a Civil War battlefield, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And more power to you, Vicki. That's, I think y'all know we're Virginia. Anyway, so y'all know. So this works is rooted in seeds, but it's also so much about language, and those cultural ties, and it's also about leveraging, like that these are our cultural resources as a platform to talk to, to speak truth to power. So there's a few more slides that I'll show you, and then I would love to hear questions and just talk more and let you know also how we pivoted. So we not only have, we have 2 seed banks type storage or buckets, if you will. One is things that you can find in our store. But another is just that we have seeds from truly, our ancestors all over Turtle Island. And people ask me all the time, like, we have a database, Fix can tell you the numbers, but there's just like all these beautiful varieties of corn that we are, diligently storing and hoping to rematriate back to people, back to their people. Here's the Haudenosaunee black sweet corn, Kiever, Locklear, red Tuscarora. So this is that corn that we were talking about from the BIA takeover. And then we have all these amazing beans, like our life sustainers, corn, beans, and squash. There's just such an amazing diversity of them that we want to make sure that we protect. So the Alliance, it's about protecting the seeds, but we literally can't do it all. Like, we live in a tiny apartment, and fingers crossed, we are gonna move down into Tuscarora territory soon and be able to open up our own growing ecology center. So we really rely on enlisting the help of people to help us grow this stuff. And so just a few weeks ago, we were still like really outreaching, saying, we really want Indigenous growers, like, for the things that have already been commercialized. So like Cherokee Glass Gem, that's a lot of different places. Like, you can buy that from us. So that's one thing. Like, if you want to grow that, great. But if you also want to learn how to grow like your ancestors' corn, and if we have that seed, like, we're so happy to give that to you. So there's some things that we'll never ever have on our store that we just really want to keep protected within tribal communities. But there's other things that, let's share if they've already been out there. That helps to fund our work that we do with other communities. Like, this picture in the middle is Chief Terry Price of the Wolf Creek Cherokee. They are amazing stewards of the land. This is one of our favorite stories that we tell. It's, basically Terry was having like what a normal Southerner's garden with sweet corn and big tomatoes and watermelons. And we asked, would you like to try to grow this Cherokee white flower corn? He was kind of like, sure. Well, you can see, like, he's a tall guy. Like, he's like, maybe 6 feet tall. And this Cherokee flower corn can grow to 13 to 15 feet tall. It's incredible. And his wife likes to tell the story of like the first storm that came, like Terry's out there like trying to hold them up, like he's so worried about them. But they did, all right, they corrected themselves, and now they're growing Cherokee white flower, they're growing Cherokee tomatoes, they're growing Cherokee beans, they're growing Cherokee watermelon, Sun, Moon, and Stars. I mean, they are huge supporters. So they donate a lot of their seed back to the seed bank, and their community helps out with them. It's really what the magic really is. So yeah, that's where the mission was going. And this spring, we had done such a good job, y'all. We done all these things. We had lined up a new site to work with. So the Haudenosaunee up in the Fredericksburg area of Virginia, they're developing a garden on a park that has been leased with them. And Not Away with Me, like, we grow this this Hopi dye sunflower that you see, and then we're going to have a really heavily volunteer-led workday project up in the Richmond area, and then we couldn't gather anymore. Like, the Haudenosaunee, unfortunately, can't access that site And, you know, of course, like, our communities are very concerned about getting together. I can, you know, from our community, a lot of our elders are rightfully concerned, and they're in their 70s and 80s. And so for us, like, our whole work really began to shift. You know, we always thought that the store was just there to you know, handle overhead costs, you know, and we're just excited to get people to grow. But over the past month, you know, like y'all said, all of a sudden people are just like so, you know, turned on to this fact that we need to grow our own food and how vital that is. And so for us and all of our pre-planning, like, we had it all dialed in. Some of our growers reached out to us and said, look, like, I want to grow these things that I committed to, but I'm also really concerned about growing food. And so, of course, we understand, right? So now, you know, a lot of our gardening plans are shifting into, like, what can we grow as a community, and, like, what kind of food is going to feed us. And then we're so small, like, we just opened the store in late August just to kind of, like, get our feels right on it, and didn't quite finish the website when we launched it. We're like, oh, we'll have plenty of time to do that before anybody notices, and now this. So we're very blessed to have you know, so many people coming to the store, and before we really understood what was happening widespread, like, we didn't anticipate there. I mean, a lot of the big seed companies have, like, massive delays on their seed orders. We didn't quite, you know, understand, like, what we don't know, right, day to day. But we wanted to, you know, in our first week of realization of what's happening, you know, we're just reminded of what is our mission. Like, what are our original instructions? Like, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to share the seeds. Like, that's what we're supposed to do, 100%. Like, Sky Women didn't tell us, like, how, you know, they're just like, share the seeds. And so where we thought we were going to be able to gather with communities, and like we've, you know, been intending to, really it's turned into, we just need to, like, get some sustainers into people's hands. And so we started a drive where we pretty much set aside, like, one-to-one seed packet to seed packet of these seed bundles that we're creating for tribal groups, starting in Virginia and North Carolina, but widening that as we can. Within those seed bundles, there are corn, bean, squash, you know, definitely nature pollinators in there, so you need your sunflowers and other, you know, and other things to eat. And so we're working with an indigenous seed network. Some of y'all probably know we're on White. So, you know, we've recently all been on a call where we're assessing kind of, like, how are we helping our elders and communities. And so for us in the Southeast, that's we're collecting all the seeds that we can to set aside and creating bundles and sending them out with instructions to our tribal communities, and still heavily pushing, you know, for the rematriation, but understanding that people probably, you know, are at different levels and maybe want to just focus on food. So going forward, you know, like, all the things that we were, you know, listening, like, pushing for so long, like, it's just, we, you know, is now really coming into everybody's, you know, foresight, and we're so grateful for that. And so going forward, you know, we are going to continue to support our tribal seeds initiative. A seed bank really is something that we could all have. Like, we have a 25 seed pack where we give you a variety of things, and, you know, seed saving is something that we could all do just to keep our finances low, and to also just, you know, just really get connected with that process. And you know, you've also beautifully introduced yourselves where you are, and so, you know, I get a sense that you're all, you know who your people are around you. And if you are growing, you know, like, consider sharing. I know you are. And if you want to, you know, continue to follow Alliance of Native Seedkeepers, we're prolific on Facebook. We're getting better at other platforms. You can certainly support us if you like. But really, it's, you know, it's more about, like, we're just so excited for you to get so, you know, deeply connected to your own sustainers, and whatever that means for you in your day-to-day life. And so again, like, I'm so stoked to have you all here with me. And yeah, I'm just grateful, very, very grateful.
Thank you so much, Beth. Are you ready for some questions or just discussion from everyone?
Yeah, and I do have a book to recommend.
Oh, great.
Can y'all see this? So we often get asked about how to save different seeds. So this is one that we really like. But yeah, happy to answer questions.
What's the title of it? And I'll type it into the.
That sounds good. Seed to Seed.
Okay.
Suzanne, that's the author, Ashworth.
Okay. I typed it in.
Yeah.
So maybe, do you want to stop sharing your screen so that we can go back into like a gallery view? So thank you for amazing presentation. Does anybody have any particular question? Maybe you could just kind of like raise your hand and unmute yourself.
What else here?
How about Jolene Rios?
Hey, like I mentioned, I'm working with the Yakima Nation with their community garden, and we do have some Yakima squash that that we were able some seeds. We do have some seeds that we were able to obtain. I wondered if you work with any of the tribes on side of the country, or if you know anybody that does.
I do know somebody who does. We'd be happy to work out there, but Rowan White is just phenomenal. She's Mohawk and she lives out in the Bay Area. But also, I'll put my email in here too. So feel free to reach out to me and we can always connect and make sure that, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we're really disconnected right now because we're shut down. We can't gather at all or anything, and we really even moved the garden forward very much. So some real challenges. So thank you.
I feel you on that. I feel you on that so much. This is the time to plant, right? Like, I think that's like an amazing way for us for home. Like, I couldn't have come at a more interesting time, but I feel that we had 3 sites and now we're down to 1. So we have, yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have some questions. Hi, Beth. Just wondering what, so you mentioned you have what's in the store, but also are willing to do intertribal selling of more rare seeds. And I know that, like, of course I understand why, but would that be something if I'm developing a garden program here that we could look at that menu option?
Oh, for sure. That's such a good question. Yeah, so that would be an example of, so this is a great question. This is a good way to show that the seed store funds like all of our work to like get things to you. So like that wouldn't be like, we wouldn't charge you for that, like that's really what we love about the model is that, seed sales then allow us to like, do what we need to do to get y'all seeds that you need for your community. So that's really the dream right there. And to, yeah. And then the fun thing is, and Brent mentioned it, and Adelita, you're on this tour too. We're like, we just like wanted like, it's like this like world tour of seeds. Like, can we just get all of us talking about our seeds and our stories and our people and just like, yeah, that's what I want to see. I want to hear you talk about like all the things that, I've seen you dance and sing, like, but gosh, like all of it, and then put that out there.
And this is something I just start, because I am in another climate action group, not Mothers Out Front, but I'm working with local folks here and looking into some funding to start a gardening program, especially now with food insecurity and sustainability practices. I'm sorry. Yeah, so I'm looking into potential funding sources and would like this to be an indigenous based practice garden and teaching type of program, and I'm very much inspired by the work you're doing, of course. And so, you know, we're now faced with, you know, looking at our own food insecurities in the different parts of the world. So I think this is like such an important time to be talking about our seeds, our creation stories, and really kind of leaning back, you know, into our traditional practices the way, you know, they were taught to us from our ancestors. So
that's so beautiful, right? It's all can happen in the garden. You know, we say that our gardens are our seed sanctuaries and our language sanctuaries, and yeah, it's everything. Everything happens in the garden. I'm so stoked. I can't wait to talk more about that with you.
Let's see. So Jessica says she's wondering what type of support you feel would be most helpful to have from non-native people.
That's a really sweet question. Yeah. You know, I think I'm going to speak from like an activist hat for a second. And, you know, like, I think, and Jessica, like, you're in Virginia, you know, like we have such a hard time with 400 years of this awful history and this erasure of our people and our cultures and our stories and the presence that you see out in like public spaces. Like you know, our park system signage is terrible. We need help with that. So I think in Virginia, you know, it's learning about who's here and who's here now, and like really kind of getting a deep sense of that. What's, you know, there are parallels in all of our peoples, but then there are unique parts of our histories. And so like if you come to our powwow, I like to warn people that like, look, like we intermarried, you know, with a lot of Europeans, a lot of African, you know, it's like, and that's fully a part of our story. And so it's like learning like really the stories that are unique to where you are, because that's really going to help before you even like, you know, if you are, you know, hoping to connect with Native people, like doing a little bit of history is super important. And then just like naming, like where, you know, naming that, you know, that stuff is good. I got to brag on Jessica. She is doing something, and she's helped us with something that we actually restarted today, which is we have a lot of things on our website that we are asking for descriptions of people to help with us, like kind of crowdsource that. And Jessica's been one of our folks. Thank you, Jessica. And then people are piping up. And so in this time of like people looking at like, how can I help somebody? Like I have this skill, like I'm sitting at home and maybe I want to, you know, do a little bit of writing. Like that's a cool way to help us, is to do, you know, do some descriptions of products. And then I would just, yeah, and if you hear, and this is a kind of a casual thing, and I don't really know, you know, I'll just say this, like, I think one of the biggest things that we can all do, no matter what circle we're in, is like, if I'm hanging out with people and they say something messed up about, you know, like a group or something, it's like calling them in to that space. And like, you know, even if I'm not there, like, or somebody else isn't there, you know, like, I think that as non-Native people or any kind of like non-Black or, you know, whatever, like just, we all have that responsibility, right? To kind of, to call people in. Yeah, so, and if there are powwows in your area, like it would be awesome to go support the powwow and get to know people. Because anytime you see a Native event, a Native-led event, like, you know, if they're putting it out there, they want you to come and they want you to get to know them. And, you know, it's a big welcome sign. So that's a, you know, sweet question. Thank you, Jessica. And thank you for your support. All right.
So you did mention, you know, with some of the climate issues that we're all experiencing, how it's impacted kind of planning and planning of the planting of the seeds, and some of the crops may have, you know, been impacted because of heat or rains or lack of. So how do you, I mean, I'm planting seeds right now and I'm just like, I don't think that's going to happen, but you just never know. Like,
Yeah.
how do you work around that? Or like, is it just a loss? You have to call it a loss.
Yeah, so this really, this is an important, thing to think about, or for us all to be talking about with each other. It's, the climates are changing wherever we are. And, the wisdom here always was that you plant your corn when the dogwood flowers are like, or leaves are like the size of squirrel's ears. And that's when like the roots are the soil is warm enough for that. But if you have like a crazy early heat snap, your dogwoods might bloom earlier, or if you have a super early heat snap, we had like one in February last year, so we had like no wisteria. It was so sad, like they all got confused. And then for like the summer, last summer we had that loss. And so for one, there's two thoughts with this. One is, someone else mentioned the seed bank, which I'm sure there's lots of really, neat technology with that. One thing that we like to talk about is that seeds have memory, like they develop memory every season. So like to keep your seed fresh, somebody else says rare seeds, do they have a shelf life? Like absolutely, like seeds do have shelf lives. And so, you don't want to, like corn, like just depends on how you store it. So if you store it in a deep freezer, then you might be good for a decade for some things. But if you have exposure to sunlight and moisture, then they're not going to be as viable. But it is important to keep growing the seeds, because like they need to build up some resiliency within themselves. And so for like our example of Seneca Pink Lady, we didn't plant like the very last bit that we had, and then thank goodness we found another source. And True Love Seeds, support them too. They're awesome. So, and this is another really big important part of why we need so many people growing different things. At one site, we grew this test-border bread bean. Well, we grew test-border bread bean, 2 different sites. One site, there had been a huge development that cleared out a bunch of trees. And so like all their deer and critters like found our test-border bread bean bed, and we're like had a buffet. I mean, the deer took the tops, the raccoons pulled up the roots, and it was just like, we had planted a lot because we really like this bean. Thankfully, across town, we planted it at Wolf Creek, and they have a much more protected site. And thankfully, that bed did all right. And y'all should have seen me, like when I realized that they were ready, I like dove on it, and I was like getting them as much as I could. So, it's so much, there's so much value in all of us doing our bit to plant in different places, so that just in case there's a loss in my site, it might not be across town and whatnot. We just got to keep trying.
Right. So we are just about out of time. It's 5 p.m. and we just want to be really respectful of everybody's full lives. But Beth, thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing your work, and so much inspiration in this call. And thank you for sharing your email. So please grab Beth's email from the chat view, and a book recommendation that she gave. And just a heads up that we have our next call is a little bit different. It is in collaboration with Sierra Club on Earth Day. Beth and another guest on this call, Dee Dee Belmares, another incredible alumni from our last accelerator program, and their colleague Jordan Maka. She is the executive director of Bayou Water Keepers. They are going to share some of their stories and strategies and inspiration on April 22nd, so next week on Earth Day. And we hope you'll join us for other calls like these. We hope you plant lots of seeds this season, and you have everything you need. And just thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Beth.
Thanks y'all so much. No way.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.